She's an engineer, she's a chemist. She's got more brains than I've got fingers. I'll be going down to the bottom of the ocean in one of these things in 5 days' time, and I don't even know how they work. Carl Spencer, one of Britain's most experienced deep-sea explorers, gave me a quick tour.
This is one of only a pair of submersibles capable of diving to the depth of the Titanic.
How far down will it go?
6,000 metres. So at the depth of the Titanic, 3,784 metres, we're well within the working limits of the MERS.
What will stop it crushing in on itself and squashing me to the size of a pea?
Well, the actual cockpit is actually a 7-foot diameter nickel alloy sphere. It's 9 inches thick. There are 3 portholes on the front. The portholes themselves are made out of plexiglass. They're 7 inches thick. I mean, this thing is a pretty strong piece of engineered equipment. Obviously, it's warm inside the sphere.
Yeah.
The water temperature on the bottom gets to about 2 degrees C, so occasionally you get condensation. The only time you have to worry is if the water that drips on you tastes a bit salty.
Don't say that stuff. So look, do I get in it here, or do I get in it when we get out to
No,
sea?
everything on the MERS is rigged on deck here in the MER bays.
Yeah.
There's a set of ladders on the port side of the MER. This takes us to the hatch on the top of the MER.
So how does the thing get uncoupled from the derrick that swings me out?
There's a proper deployment system here, which swings the MER already rigged, you guys out, and deploys it over the side of the Keldysh.
Yeah.
There's a ship on board here called a Koresh, which is a support ship for the MERS. It then tows them out to designated points. The cowboys cut the
The who?
The cowboys. They've become known as the MER cowboys because they ride the top of these MERS. They're like a rodeo rider on a steer.
I want to be looked after by guys in white coats with glasses. Each one has 3 university degrees, not cowboys. We've got a bit of a problem actually, which is that there are loads of currents here, not just on the surface, but halfway down and cross currents too. And we can't chuck an anchor down 2.5 miles. So the boat keeps drifting and we constantly have to keep repositioning, and the subs have to keep repositioning too. It's a really delicate and frustratingly complex operation. With the Keldysh repositioned, Jim's ready to make his first dive, to explore the wreck and test the surface video link. The video pictures are sent back to the MER, and from the MER up to the surface via 20,000 feet of fibre optic cable. It's critical that this fragile umbilical, costing $1 a foot, doesn't snag or snap on the long descent. The cable's controlled and paid out from an inflatable boat to minimise drag and drift in the mid-ocean currents. It's a delicate balancing act, letting just enough out without putting too much tension on the cable. It's not just losing the pictures that worries me. A tangle around the sub's propeller could easily immobilise her on the seabed, with potentially fatal consequences. This is one of those really magic moments. Can you see it out there? There are about 20 little whales. I'll have to find out what sort they are later on. The reason that they're here is, you see this long cable there, that goes right down to the bottom of the ocean, and they've put a transponder on the end of it to help us navigate when we're down the bottom, and the transponder's going ping, 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 and the whales have heard it and they've come to play. It's a bit like that moment in a sci-fi thing where we hear the aliens and go and see them. After a dark 2.5-hour descent, Jim in his MER finally hits bottom.
The bottom of the sea, baby, bottom of the sea. Just follow the skid marks. It'll take you to Titanic. All skid marks lead to Titanic. It's Titanic, dude. Check it out, huh? You see it? There's Titanic right there, guys. Pretty cool, huh?
The 2 MERs always dive together, for dive safety and for more creative reasons. MER 1 carries the lights and MER 2 the cameras. The Mears are too large to enter the wreck. Instead, each sub is equipped with remotely operated robotic cameras. These butts, all individually named by Jim, are controlled from the Meer and are small enough to go through portholes and navigate the ship's collapsed interior.
Now, just so you don't think I'm sitting here playing Halo 2 at the bottom of the ocean, I'm actually flying a remotely operated vehicle whose name is Gilligan. He's the green sort of toaster on steroids.
The bots cost thousands of dollars and are each capable of working at depths of up to 20,000 feet and pressures of 6,000 pounds per square inch. If nothing goes wrong, they'll be able to penetrate and explore up to 1,500 feet inside the wreck. So far, so good. Jim begins to feed live pictures back up to the surface. On the Keldysh, this is my first glimpse of Titanic's interior. She seems to be covered in swaying stalactites.
Those are called rusticles, icy type structures that have iron, a lot of iron and manganese and sulfur in them. So they're actually biological in nature. They're created through bacteria.
So are they animal or mineral?
Both, actually. The rusticle itself is created by the bacteria, and the mineral part comes from the ocean, such as the calcium or other elements that are coming out of the ocean, as well as the ship itself.
So where do they come from, these bacteria?
They're actually naturally found in the environment. They're bacteria that are found within the ocean in biocolloids, which are sort of slime matrices within the ocean itself, as well as the ship itself would have carried down probably the first food source for these types of bacteria.
What is it they're after?
The bacteria's main goal in life is, of course, food, water, which there's plenty of, and gases. Oxygen, nitrogen, methane, whatever gases are produced. It's not one kind of bacteria, but a community or a consortia, a group of bacteria that work together in almost a symbiotic relationship. If you touch a rusticle and break it apart, it will spew out these red dust and yellow slimes for it.
Why?
We think it has a reproductive element to it because the bacteria are always looking to colonize new areas of structure. So the steel in other areas ends up becoming completely coated with this red dust, yellow slime, which in essence is the rusticles.
So we start off with the steel.
Yes.
Which was made out of, what, pig iron and...
Probably pig iron, sulfur, manganese, all sorts of different nickel, leads, all sorts of things go into the steel.
And you've got all these little things working on the steel.
Yes.
And eventually they turn it back into pig iron.
Exactly. Titanic will end up being an iron ore deposit on the bottom of the ocean one day.
Can you measure, by looking at the rusticles, how long it's going to take the Titanic to break down?
It's deteriorating quite quickly, so we're looking at about 80 to 100 years before Titanic becomes an iron ore deposit.
Long before that, the hull will become so eaten away by bacteria that it'll collapse in on itself, destroying all the archaeological evidence inside.
I think we're in.
The first target of this dive is the Marconi wireless room, a place charged with tales of bravery and heroism. This is where, on the fateful night, wireless operators Harold Bride and Jack Phillips spent hours tapping out and transmitting Morse code distress signals. Their actions led to the rescue of 700 survivors. The question is, did they really stay at their posts as water flooded the room?
Part of what made the story so powerful was the rescue. The people who were saved, the 703 who were saved because of this machine. You know, we're in a wireless age right now. Everybody's, you know, it's wireless everything. But this was the first wireless device. The turn of the last century, it was a wireless age as well, and people were enamored of this technology. Oh, there's some writing. Volts, look at that. And look at these regulators. This is, you can see the left one is cranked all the way over. They were really trying to get the spark up as much as they could as the ship was dying. This is right where Jonathan Phillips switched off the set.
The large breaker switch is frozen forever in the off position. This means that the wireless was deliberately isolated to prevent a short circuit. Whoever threw the switch was risking fatal electrocution as the water rose.
Either he was incredibly brave, he wasn't stupid, these were smart guys. These were the computer geeks of 1912.
22-year-old Bride survived the wreck, while 25-year-old Phillips died. Both were hailed as heroes. The next dive target is one deck down, on A deck. Jim's looking for a suite of cabins occupied by the Duff Gordons, a high society married couple made notorious by the sinking.
There's something about the Titanic story that's truth is greater than fiction, where you have the largest ship in the world on its maiden voyage. It's supposed to be unsinkable, and you filled it with all these wealthy and influential people, and the man who designed it is on board, and the president of the company that owns it, and then it hits an iceberg and sinks so slowly that there's all this drama acted out.
Sir Cosmo and Lady Lucille Duff Gordon were among the first people to leave the sinking ship. They escaped with 12 others on a lifeboat designed for 40, allegedly bribing the crew with £5 to keep rowing and not return to pick up survivors. To find the Duff Gordon staterooms, Jim has to negotiate his way through the first-class lobby, still complete with ghostly light fittings and elevators.
You want to call the elevator?
To drive and navigate these bots in such enclosed and collapsed spaces, you need a unique sense of spatial awareness. Operating one of these robot cameras may seem dead easy, just like playing a computer game, but imagine when it's 12,000 feet down and you're looking for some way to get into the ship, and eventually you come across a doorway or just a rusty old hole in the hold, and you're looking upwards and tilting the camera back down again, trying to avoid all the rusticles and the bits of debris dangling from the ceiling, and you're looking for somewhere to go. Maybe you want to go down to the next floor, or there's a corridor down here and you're not sure whether that's the one that you want to explore, and all the time you're trying to avoid snagging your tether, and there's metal twisted in your way, and virtually all the wood except the teak has completely disappeared. It's essential that we keep track of all of the bots all of the time.
Well, I've got a program loaded into my laptop, and it's called the Navigator. It's basically a computer reconstruction of the entire ship, showing all the rooms. And as Jim's bot proceeds through each of these rooms, I'm following along, following his every movements, so that I can keep oriented on where we are.
There's a web frame to our left. Is there a window right past that web frame?
The door into the Duff Gordon stateroom has completely disappeared.
There's his bed. There's his mirror. Now that's interesting. Here's Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon's mirror. He had to look in a mirror for the rest of his life and know that he could have taken another 30 people in his boat, easy. But it's hard. It's easy to condemn people from a distance. But maybe he loved his wife and he was afraid that she would die if he did something like that. The protective instinct is strong too. So, was he a coward? Maybe not.
The official disaster inquiry concluded that their actions were within the bounds of civilized behavior. Even so, they carried the stigma of cowardice for the rest of their lives.